While we've explored strategies for navigating difficult bosses, I need to be completely honest with you. Some situations cannot and should not be managed. They need to be escaped. The challenge lies in distinguishing between normal workplace frustrations that everyone experiences and truly toxic environments that warrant leaving. This line often remains unclear until you've already crossed it, finding yourself deep in territory that's damaging your life beyond the workplace. Research identifies critical warning signs that signal it's time to plan your exit rather than continue coping. These indicators function like smoke alarms. They detect danger before the full crisis emerges, giving you critical time to respond. Learning to recognize these signals could save years of your career and protect your mental health from permanent damage. The most concerning signal, the one you should never ignore, appears when your physical and mental health begin deteriorating. Our bodies often recognize toxic environments before our conscious minds admit the problem. Do you notice yourself experiencing regular Sunday night panic attacks at the thought of returning to work? Has your sleep deteriorated since working under this manager? Are you using alcohol or other substances more frequently to cope with workplace stress? These physical manifestations aren't just inconvenient symptoms. They're your body's alarm system. Research links toxic leadership to elevated stress and long-term health issues. This isn't just unpleasant, it's potentially life-threatening. Your body often recognizes danger before your mind acknowledges it. Listen when it speaks. Studies consistently show that working under toxic leadership significantly increases stress levels, anxiety, and burnout, with effects that can persist long after leaving the environment. Another clear indicator appears when you're asked to compromise your values or ethics. This creates an internal conflict that rarely resolves without removing yourself from the situation. Perhaps your boss asks you to misrepresent data to clients, take credit for others' work, or participate in decisions that harm vulnerable people. These violations create a form of moral injury that extends far beyond typical workplace frustration. When you consistently act against your core values, you don't just dislike your job, you begin to dislike yourself. Your career trajectory provides another crucial warning sign. If you're developing a reputation primarily as your boss's fixer, rather than building your own expertise, you're sacrificing long-term growth for short-term stability. This particularly subtle form of career damage happens when you become defined by your relationship to a problematic leader rather than by your own contributions and capabilities. Ask yourself, are the skills you're developing transferable and valuable, or are you becoming specialized in managing one person's dysfunction? Reputation damage represents another critical signal. In professional environments, how others perceive you can become as important as your actual work. If your association with a bad boss is negatively affecting your professional reputation, the costs extend far beyond your current role. This happens when you become viewed as complicit in your boss's poor decisions, or when their negative reputation begins attaching to you through proximity. The most definitive sign that exit rather than adaptation is needed comes when leadership above your boss is aware of the problems, but unwilling to act. This indicates a systemic issue rather than an isolated bad manager. When an organization knows about toxic leadership, but chooses not to address it, you've received the clearest possible message about their values and priorities. No adaptation strategy can overcome an organizational culture that protects and enables harmful leadership practices. Research on toxic leadership confirms these warning signs aren't just subjective experiences. Studies show that toxic leaders significantly increase turnover in tensions among employees. The research reveals a clear pattern. When employees experience persistent negative leadership behaviors without organizational intervention, they report higher levels of anxiety, decreased commitment, and ultimately, the decision to leave. These findings validate what many experience intuitively. Some workplace situations are fundamentally unsuitable for long-term adaptation. Recognizing these warning signs allows you to make strategic decisions rather than reactive ones. Instead of waiting until a breaking point forces a hasty departure, you can plan a controlled exit that protects your professional relationships, finances, and mental health. This might involve systematically building your external network, updating your skills, or gradually transitioning responsibilities while searching for a healthier environment. The ability to recognize when adaptation has reached its limits represents its own form of workplace wisdom. Sometimes the most strategic career move isn't figuring out how to thrive in a toxic situation. It's recognizing when that situation requires leaving rather than coping. This isn't giving up, It's making a mature assessment of reality and responding appropriately to protect your future potential. Navigating away from toxic leadership doesn't mean your experience was wasted. Even the most challenging workplace situations contain valuable insights that can transform your approach to your career. The question becomes not just whether to stay or go, but how to mentally position yourself in relation to the challenge you're facing. Your mindset might be the most powerful tool you possess. The ultimate mindset shift, from victim to strategist. The transformation begins with a fundamental shift in how you perceive your workplace challenges. Beyond all the strategies and tactics we've discussed lies something even more powerful: a complete reframing of your relationship with difficult leadership. This mental shift changes everything. After examining hundreds of professionals who've successfully navigated toxic leadership, I discovered something surprising. Those who thrived didn't necessarily have better bosses than those who suffered. They simply approached the situation with a fundamentally different mindset that transformed their experience from the inside out. The default response when working under incompetent leadership is feeling victimized and powerless. This creates a psychological trap that actually compounds the negative impact beyond what your boss is directly causing. I've watched talented professionals become increasingly bitter, disengaged, and stressed as they focus obsessively on their manager's latest failures. Each new mistake or poor decision becomes further evidence of injustice, creating a downward spiral of frustration that follows them home and seeps into every aspect of their lives. Breaking free requires a fundamental mindset shift from victim to strategist, viewing your bad boss as a challenge to navigate rather than a punishment to endure. This doesn't mean pretending problematic behavior is acceptable. It means recognizing that while you can't control your boss's actions, you retain complete control over your response to those actions. The moment you shift from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "How can I strategically handle this situation?" everything changes. This perspective transformation doesn't excuse poor leadership, but recognizes that your response determines how much power the situation has over your well-being and career. As Tomas Chamorro-Premusic's research highlights, self-awareness becomes a critical factor in building resilience against workplace challenges. His studies show that individuals who maintain awareness of their reactions to difficult situations demonstrate significantly better coping mechanisms than those who remain reactive. Research confirms this psychological shift has measurable impacts. Studies show strategic mindsets correlate with better resilience and workplace satisfaction compared to those who maintain a victim mentality. Their circumstances hadn't changed, only their perspective had transformed. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a practical approach that creates tangible results. The shift involves 3 key elements that anyone can implement regardless of their specific situation. First, separating identity from circumstance. Recognizing that working under a bad boss doesn't define your value or capabilities. Second, viewing challenges as temporary scenarios rather than permanent conditions. Nothing in the workplace remains static forever. Third, focusing on response rather than control. Directing your energy toward the elements you can influence rather than those you cannot change. This mindset creates practical benefits beyond stress reduction. When you stop viewing yourself as a victim, you start recognizing opportunities within challenges. The micromanaging boss becomes a chance to develop clear communication skills. The indecisive leader provides opportunities to practice initiative. The credit-stealing manager teaches valuable lessons about documenting contributions. Every frustrating interaction transforms from a problem into a potential learning experience. As highlighted by Chamorro-Premusic, leaders with feedback loops outperform those without. This insight applies equally to managing your own response to difficult leadership. Those who create internal feedback mechanisms, regularly assessing their reactions and adjusting their approach, demonstrate greater career resilience than those who remain reactive to external circumstances. This approach transforms even the worst boss experiences into valuable learning opportunities that accelerate your career development and leadership abilities. I've consistently noticed that professionals who successfully navigate difficult managers often advance more quickly long-term than those with easier workplace experiences. The challenges force them to develop advanced communication skills, emotional resilience, strategic thinking, and political savvy that others never needed to cultivate. Ironically, those who master navigating bad bosses often develop superior leadership capabilities themselves, having learned precisely what not to do when they reach positions of authority. They've experienced firsthand the damage caused by poor communication, inconsistency, credit stealing, and micromanagement. This creates an embodied understanding of effective leadership practices that goes beyond theoretical knowledge. Your difficult boss inadvertently provides a masterclass in what not to do when managing others. The psychological freedom this mindset creates extends beyond your current situation. When you view difficult bosses as challenges to navigate rather than tormentors with power over you, you reclaim your sense of agency in the workplace. This makes you more likely to take calculated risks, speak up when appropriate, and pursue opportunities regardless of organizational politics. You become less reactive and more strategic in all your professional interactions. The one mindset shift that transforms your relationship with workplace leadership is moving from victim to strategist, changing how you experience and respond to the situation. This doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or lowering your standards. It means recognizing that your response to leadership challenges becomes a skill that benefits you throughout your career, long after your current boss has become a distant memory. With these strategies in mind, you're now equipped to not just survive, but potentially thrive despite working under incompetent leadership. Your difficult boss doesn't define your career trajectory. Your response to them does. By approaching the situation strategically rather than emotionally, you transform workplace challenges into opportunities for growth that others never experience. The skills you develop navigating difficult leadership become professional assets that distinguish you in any organization. The reality is that bad bosses will always exist in workplaces. Organizations will continue promoting the wrong people for all the reasons we've explored. The question isn't whether you'll encounter ineffective leadership during your career. It's how you'll use these experiences to develop exceptional capabilities that remain with you long after these challenging relationships end. The skills developed through navigating challenging leadership become invaluable assets in your professional journey. By understanding why bad bosses rise and adopting strategic coping and advancement methods, you transform workplace challenges into lasting career benefits. Rather than viewing difficult bosses as obstacles, recognize them as opportunities to develop resilience, political savvy, and communication skills that others may never need to cultivate. These experiences provide real-world lessons in what effective leadership truly requires. The strategies we've explored, from documentation to managing up to mindset shifts, give you practical tools to apply immediately in your current situation. Your response to leadership challenges ultimately determines your professional trajectory, far more than the challenges themselves.